This is my third video on election results, and this one I'm going to have to clear up in the description to not give it this title, but basically it's called It Ain't Shit. These are elections that people talked about and really didn't have much of an impact once we get through the initial stage of shock, grief, or eh. And I got 7 of them for you. Like and subscribe, hate and comment below. I'm going to start first in the great state of Florida. Now these are 2 races that are intertwined, which will basically be rewrapped and unwrapped in, well, if not 2 years, in 4. That was District 26 and 27, South Florida congressional districts. Now, 27, which is Ileana Ros-Lehtinen seat, which is now Donna Shalala's, that's Democrat. And, well, after all the money that got poured into that district, yeah, it's going to be Democrat. Now, Donna Shalala might only hold that for 2 years. She might lose in re-election, in a primary. It's highly unlikely that she's going to lose a re-election in 2 years. But in 4 years, her seat in 26 are going to be cut in such a way that there's going to be a super, I would say, African-American district and a super Latino district. The super Latino district will probably fall Republican all the time. That'll be the remnants 26. The African-American and other district will be Democrat, and it'll be done in such a way that Donna Shalala will not win re-election against Debbie Murkazol-Powell if she is, if they're both in office, which I don't think they will be, in 4 years. So as much as 27 was a big deal, in the long run. Now 26 might flop back to being Republican, but again, Florida's going to gain at least 1, probably 2 congressmen. And again, I think they're going to take 26 and 27, group them together in such a way that there will be a permanent Republican in a Republican Hispanic district, or likely Republican Hispanic district, and a permanent African-American Democrat district. Now, when they add the 2, one is going to be in South Florida, and where I think it is going to actually matter is, especially because of how badly Broward screwed up with the counts and Florida 23, you will see a third African-American district that is in South Florida that will cut into Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district. And depending on how it is redrawn, Debbie Wasserman Schultz will at least have a contestable election instead of running against the Joe Kaufmans of the world. No offense to Joe. You might be watching this video, but you know you have no shot to beating Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You know you have no shot. Just the truth. Now, in another election that didn't really mean much of anything was in the great state of New York. And yes, she won the primary and shook the world. And then afterwards, she helped no Democrat get elected. And that is Ocasio-Cortez. Now, yeah, it was big that she knocked out a Democrat. The Democratic leadership will not have a contested election. And yes, our girl, Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So it was big in the primary. But Ocasio-Cortez didn't help anybody else get elected. And in 2 years, I imagine that if she can't get any committees and does not represent her district very well, Crowley who lost the seat, will help somebody defeat her. And in 4 years, when Democrats in Albany have lost a seat, and they generally don't redistrict New York City area, they may want to knock her out. Because Democrats are a little bit, even though the state is very blue, and the state assembly is definitely very, very blue, the Democrats in the state Senate are not very liberal. They may not want her to have a seat. And since they will control redistricting for the first time in a very long time, they may want to make districts that are not exactly appealing to her. So they may try to do their bit to get her out of office. So, yeah, it's important for the national metric, but it may not mean much in New York with her actual representation. On that regard, I'm going to go to a state that, on the surface, seems like it means a lot, and that is the state of Wisconsin electing a Democratic governor. Now, Walker got defeated, and quite frankly, to ruin The Walking Dead, it may have been Dead Wayne Walking, because this was his 4th election in 8 years. And the fact that Evers won but didn't clear 50% is actually pretty important, because that means that Republicans may not be as out of shape in Wisconsin as some may think. Now, all of the states that hit water had re-elections or had Democrats either reelect or take the seats, except for Ohio. Wisconsin is the closest. Again, didn't clear 50. And if I was going to talk about the states that voted Republican for Trump, that could flip, right? Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana's not going to flip. Michigan, Wisconsin, those are all states that hit water. Ohio is probably the least worrisome for Trump. Wisconsin's the second least worrisome. In that regard, it's almost impossible for Wisconsin, with its 8 congressional representatives, to have 4 Democrat. Even though Republicans have controlled the state legislature and the governor, there have been surveys done to try to see if anyone can create a district that would give a majority of the 8 to Democrats, and it really just can't be done. Democrats are basically concentrated in the city of Milwaukee, around the state university in La Crosse, and around the state capitol in Madison, with a sea of Republican everywhere else. Now, could Democrats possibly cut Milwaukee in half and try to grab Green Bay and southeast Wisconsin? You're probably only going to win one of those 2. And if you do that in La Crosse or you do that in Madison, try to cut their districts, you're probably going to open up a Republican wave. So instead of being 5-3, your goal is to get 4-4 or even 3-5 Democratic majority. You could be talking about only getting 1 seat. So redistricting is not something that Democrats should actually gain in Wisconsin. And Republicans have kind of dominated the area for a very long time. So there's no real change in the state Supreme Court. And again, the House and Senate in the state are Republican. So it may seem like a lot, but it's not necessarily much. And quite frankly, Wisconsin's play in the presidential primaries is also very minimal. Evers not clearing 50 and Wisconsin not being one of the first 4 may not be much of a get for a candidate running in 2020 to win that primary. Moving next door to Minnesota. The Me Too movement doesn't exist in the state of Minnesota because Ellison, a man who allegedly beat up his girlfriend on the eve of his election to Attorney General, won. What that basically taught people is if you get caught, or if you perceive to get caught, deny. Deny that I mentioned you deny. And Democrats can no longer use that, Republicans, put Donald Trump in there and he denied about sexual assault stuff. Yeah, well, you put in Ellison. And his election means a lot, but it doesn't mean shit for female rights in the state of Minnesota, a state that is very, very traditionally blue. But basically, if you tell the truth, you get frankened. And it's going to, basically, his election doesn't mean a lot for people that actually want to, support women in that area, especially if you're a Democrat. Because yes, you will have some Democratic House seats that will be populated by females. But if they want to move up the chain to higher office, a statewide office in Minnesota, they know it's still a good old boys network. Now, on the Dennis Hoff, for you guys who don't know, was the owner of the Bunny Ranch, and he was the owner because he's dead. But he ran for state senate in Nevada and won while dead. And people are like, oh my God, a dead guy won. Happens a lot. Ask John Ashcroft. John Ashcroft lost re-election for the Senate in Missouri to a dead governor. It happens. What does matter in that state, though, was the fact that Republicans have to stop picking bad candidates in winnable seats. Now, congressional seat 3 and 4 were very possibly could have flipped. And while I'm not going to say much about House seat number 4, Republicans have to stop picking Tarkanian, the son of the man who ate the towel, to be the representative in anything, because he just keeps losing. And again, that Southern Nevada district that includes Laughlin, you could have done something with it. Now, in another case of it don't mean shit, Beto. Since Beto didn't win, I've heard people say his consolation prize is going to be running for president. Do you know the last time somebody lost statewide office and then 2 years later was president of the United States? It was Abraham Lincoln. I've never met Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if he would call me a friend. But Beto, you are no Abe Lincoln. You're not even Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon lost governor's mansion in California in 62 and then won in 68. You're not even that. Beto, your career as a pundit maybe there. Maybe you can run for the Senate in a few years again. But don't even think about the presidency. Now, with this, we've gone through a lot of those statewide offices, but I'm going to go right on a Republican. I'm going to talk about Mia Love. Now, Mia Love lost again. She won the office 2 years ago. And it won't matter because she'll win again in 2 years. Because Republicans have proven in that district, they will not show up at a midterm, but they will show up in a presidential year. So in 2 years, she will win the state back. And then in 2022, depending on redistricting, she might lose it again. Seems kind of weird, huh? So there you have it. 7 races or events that really didn't matter in the foreseeable future. And some ways that they kind of could. So like and subscribe, hate and comment below. And we'll be back in the future. Thanks.